All right.
Please go ahead and start the meeting.
Thank you so much. We start the meeting with the Rotary Bell. For those of you who are new to Rotary, the Rotary Bell is our symbol of the unity that we have together. You know, I am just so honored that you have joined us.
No. Okay, go ahead. I'm sorry, Barbara.
No problem. I'm just so honored that so many new people have joined us. That was the first time in 4 years. We started in 2016 after the World Peace Conference in Ontario. We had 85 peacemakers being recorded on podcasts. We had 150 people speaking to all together, 1,500 guests. Not one bad thing happened. So I consider us pretty lucky that in all those years of our Zoom meetings, because we started right after the January of 2016, we never had anybody come on and say a bad word ever. We've always been able to keep the peace, and I know we can do it today. But really, you're our lifeblood. The people who have gone with Sharon to Russia, people who have come back with the new knowledge that she gives you when you're there in Russia. And we are just so delighted that you joined us tonight. We're a peace builder club. We're all active. We're all involved with some sort of peace. We're coming up with ideas about how to brand us because our activities bring in speakers like Sharon tonight, and we will be introducing her in a few minutes. You know, it's our business. Our business is to keep peace on the planet. There's so many people who aren't peaceful right now, but I want to give us an atta-girl or atta-boy because Africa today just declared they are polio free. That's not an accident. It happened because of the millions of dollars raised by people like Peggy Aseo, who is our fundraising chair, because of the Rotary International grouping, trying to get people to double the money that's brought in. If you give $1,000 to a Rotary Club today, it turns into $12,000 because of the Bill Gates Foundation. And that money is spent on eradicating polio. So I am so delighted to tell you that Africa is now polio free. I'm also delighted to tell you that tomorrow, and you may know this, is the 100th anniversary of the ability for women to vote. Yippee! Now, you know, we are good speakers when it comes to voting, and we make sure we vote for the persons from our heart and what we want them to do in the future. We will keep ourselves informed and keep them informed. Women today have a voice, and I'm so delighted. Not that the men were ever trying to keep our voice down. They just didn't realize how powerful we could be. And I wanted to thank all of you for joining us today, because peace begins with each of us. Rudy's going to go over some of the protocol for tonight, and then we're going to go straight to Sharon. Rudy, please.
Thank you, Barbara. And again, I apologize for that rude hack that happened to us, but we shall overcome. We appreciate everybody being here tonight. And we have a lot of visitors and some probably a couple past district governors from Texas joining us, and a variety of other folks that have known our speaker tonight for a long period of time. And it's great to have you here. So tonight, I would like everybody to stay muted, please. When you, our speaker tonight will be speaking, and if you have questions, put those in the chat box. So if you move your cursor to the bottom center of the screen, you see a little bubble down there that says chat. Type your questions in there. And I will ask those questions of Sharon later on in her talk. And that way we're not stepping on each other, and we get a good, clear recording of everything. So again, please follow those rules. Please stay muted. And we look forward to a really thoughtful, learning conversation tonight. Well, tonight we have a dear friend joining us here to speak to our club, and she's a Rotarian in our club. And she probably got doing what she's doing today because she's a mother and she's a grandmother. And with her motherly instincts, her goal was to protect her children. And certainly we can remember back during the heart of the Cold War with nuclear weapons aimed at each other on a hair trigger. Not that they aren't today, but how do we stop and bring together USSR and the United States so that we could avoid conflict here and we could have a future for our children and our grandchildren and our great-grandchildren. And so she organized a group starting in 1983. So I was thinking that was 35 years, but it's really, I think, 37 years. She's the president and founder of the Center for Citizens Initiative. And she wanted to see the enemy. And when she got to the Soviet Union, she discovered there was no enemy there. They were all just human beings trying to raise their families, earn a living, and have exist on the planet here. And she's continued taking Americans there, creating goodwill missions, meeting with other citizens, but also leaders in Soviet Union and now Russia over this period of time. She didn't just stop with that citizen diplomacy, though. She helped bring Alcoholics Anonymous to Russia, and it was accepted, which is a great thing. In the 90s, she worked on getting vegetable seeds when their food industry was collapsed, so they could grow crops in Russia. And over her years, she brought over 6,000 young Russian entrepreneurs to the United States to meet with leaders in American companies to learn how to start a business and help them develop a business and improve their economy, which made a huge change after communism fell. Today, she continues to take citizens over there to Russia, and it's really a goodwill understanding that we're all human beings here on our planet. And a lot of things we see on the media, whichever station you watch, aren't always what happens on the ground. And so that understanding helps create peace. And today we need that certainly more than ever between Russia and the United States. This is a person that is the power of one and shows us what the power of one was and is able to do. And one strong woman can change the world, and she is certainly working in doing that. She's also an author. Her book, The Power of Impossible Ideas, is a great read. When I received her book, I sat down and I read the whole thing. I forget how many pages it is here, probably close to 300. And I couldn't put it down because it was such a great lesson and discovery of reality in Russia and our relationship there. And so tonight we have the honor of having with us Sharon Tennyson. And we also will be bringing her back in the future here to follow up on some other issues as we go forward. So this is part of the chronology she'll speak to us tonight on and her travel along this process. And stay tuned for her second book, which will be update of the history past this book. So without further ado, Sharon, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Rudy, for having me. Actually, I joined Rudy's club saying, I would love to join your club because it's an e-club, but I can't do any local projects with you guys because I'm already having so many projects myself that I can hardly get to sleep at night. And so he agreed to let me come in as just a mute member to learn from you guys and to understand what you were doing and to feel like I'm part of Rotary again. I've been with Rotary off and on for the last 37 years. Actually, it was Rotary that first gave me my first donation. I didn't ask for it, but a president of a club in McKinney, Texas said, I think you need some money. Let me give you a check. And he gave me a $200 check. So that was my first experience with Rotary. And since then have been blessed by being amazingly helped over the years by Rotary. Every program that we have created, they had some part of, except the alcoholic program. And the AAs are busy with their own work, so they don't do anything outside that. But at any rate, I had never communicated with any of my own club, and I loved knowing what everybody else was doing. I finally said to Rudy, okay, I'm ready to tell my story. He had asked me before. And so I was really preparing today to tell his club, who doesn't know much of anything about what we do. And so that was the way I prepared myself. And he and David Wick have decided that I should come on another time or two and go into several other aspects of this, no doubt, some of the political aspects and some of the horrendous problems that we have getting along with each other. So at any rate, I'm going to start where I intended to start, and I'll go very fast. And I want you to excuse me because my 84-year-old brain won't remember everything if I don't have some notes these days. Does anybody else have that problem? Probably I'm the oldest person in the room. But at any rate, I also want to thank Barbara, our lovely president of the club this year. She does such an amazing job, and she's got such an amazing background. By the way, this is membership club, membership month. And I would like to suggest to any of you who are new to this club, if you want to belong, if you want to be a part of a second Rotary Club, you can do that. Isn't this true, Rudy?
They would, if they're a member of a club, they can become an honorary member if they wish. They can't be a member of two clubs at the same time, but they're welcome to join us any Tuesday evening.
Wonderful, wonderful. Well, at any rate, it's an amazing club. They're able to get on speakers from all over the country, from all over the world to speak to us. I've never had such speakers in my life in the Rotary clubs I've belonged to previously. So I invite you, if any of you want to join this, you want to come as a regular Rotarian, not belonging to the club, you're welcome. I also want to give a shout out to the Russians that are here. We've got Yevgenia Terakova. You don't know her, but she's been the spark plug of Rotary on the Far East out in Vladivostok. She's known all over the country for her Rotary work, and she was able to get here for this meeting. I'm so delighted. Welcome. Also, I want to talk about this 37 years of work, and I'm going to use these notes. Already, Rudy has covered some of the things that I was going to say, but I think that where I will start is New Year's Day, 1983. This is when a dozen friends of mine met in San Francisco to welcome the new year, but also to ask hard questions because we were all deeply concerned about the nuclear war that was approaching between the two countries, and what could we do? We citizens felt totally inadequate. We didn't think there was anything that anybody could do. And so we went around the room and asked each other if they had any suggestions. Well, when my turn came, I said, well, would any of you be interested in going to the Soviet Union to see the enemy? And all of a sudden, all eyes were just locked on this thought. And out of the dozen that we met, that were meeting, 6 of them said, I'm ready, count me in. And that was my first experience at thinking, what did I get myself into? But somehow or another, we were able to get travel and get ourselves headed to Moscow in September of 1983. We didn't have a clue what we were going to do once we got there, but we knew that we weren't going to do the usual things. So we were told that we would have 2 guides, which we did. They were wonderful, but we also told them, we're really not here to be guided around. What we really want to do is go to the sidewalks and the parks. And if you have any churches, we would like to see those. And we want to go to schools. We want to talk with students. We'd like to see children. And so let's come up with a program that will satisfy both of us. Fortunately, they were helpful, and they just said, well, tell us when you don't want to do what we've got planned and we'll leave you alone. We were shocked. So we did the very things that we had asked to be able to, we had told that we would be able to do. We even found a Baptist church that was working all by ourselves and went to a bang-up Baptist meeting, and I have pictures of myself in the pulpit being welcomed by the minister. It was a shocking trip because it was totally different from anything that we had expected. And looking back on it, I should have known then that that was not the end. But on the way home, one of my travelers said, does anybody else feel like I do? I feel like we have got to come back. And all of a sudden, the whole group kind of coalesced around coming back. And that really did start what was CUUI then, and today it's CCI. So from now on, I will refer to it as CCI, and that makes it easier. But that delegation really changed all of our lives. And we began speaking when we came back to the Bay Area. We sent out letters across the country to people that we had known in other cities. We went to schools and gave lectures or gave talks. Anybody that would have us, we were talking with everybody that we could. And that then, of course, started other people wanting to come and do the same kinds of trips. And so numbers of our people became trip leaders. And that's where some of the people that are here tonight ended up coming with us on those trips. And Kim Weichel was then on a first board member of on the first board of ours. And she began leading trips. It's just been a constant turnstile of everybody working to see what they could do to at least bring better understanding between the two countries. The Soviets were very suspicious of us in the beginning, particularly the political types. But the people themselves were just wonderful. They were heartful, they were quiet, they were humble. We were so impressed with so many things about the society that it just shocked us. And every time we went back, we would go to different republics so that we could get out and see what's going on in Uzbekistan or all of these different cities, republics that we went to. And people were going in different directions and then coming back home and telling what they had seen and heard. And so this was really the beginning of our work there. I want to tell you now, I don't know whether you all know or not, but this is the book that Rudy mentioned. It's called The Power of Impossible Ideas. I chose that title because frankly, everything that we tried to do was impossible at the time that we tried it. It was expected to be impossible. And many things were impossible. But nonetheless, this book is a chronicle, as Rudy said, of every living moment that we went through in this process. So I will send this book to you free, gratis, mailing and all, if you will promise me that you will read it and then pass it on to some other young person to read. So at any rate, my email address I will give you later on, and you can get in touch with me and I'll put a book in the mail to you. I still have plenty of them. I ordered 5,000 to start with, and I didn't know how to market, so I have enough books that I can be generous with them now. I'm so delighted. And so I would like to just tell you quickly the scope of programs that we did, and Rudy did mention a number of them. In '83, of course, this started our travel program. Then in '85, we met. I want to tell you the really interesting things that happened that I have no understanding of how they happened. We met a man in his apartment. He invited us in to meet his wife, crippled woman, and his 12-year-old daughter. And we were leaving that night, and he said, "Tell me, ladies from America, do you have anything in the West for alcoholism?" We said, "Well, we have a program called AA, but we don't know anything much about it. But they do have a big book, and it explains what it is." And he said, "Would you please bring it to me if you come back here?" So we agreed that we would. Then we came home. 2 weeks later, we got a telephone call, and this woman says, "Girls, are you the one that takes people to the Soviet Union?" And we say, "Yes, we are." And they said, "Good, we have a delegation and we want to go." And we say, "Okay, who are you and what's your delegation?" They said, she said, "My name is Faith Strong, and I have a delegation of alcoholics." Anonymous. And so we would like to take our recovered alcoholics to the Soviet Union and talk with them about how they can become sober too. So we could have never guessed that this woman is going to be calling us and offering to make a delegation to go over there and talk with the drunks of the country, which were numerous. And so at any rate, we took them. It was one of the most fabulous trips. you have to read it in the book to understand how powerful it was. But at any rate, that was what started AA across Russia. It's now across 11 time zones and 8 republics of the former Soviet Union. And I got to attend the 20th anniversary of AA. And I want to tell you, it was one of the most incredible experiences of my life to see thousands of people who had come from all across the country who had gotten sober on this program. So, you know, these kinds of things are just goodwill programs. They're things that help everybody. They can be done, but regardless of what the leadership of a country is. And I think that this is the role of us citizens, is to come in and do whatever is possible to create goodwill wherever we are. And so at any rate, I'm so proud of the AAs because they have been just terrific throughout the years. And then we had a program for environmentalism. We thought it was very small. It was helping Russian Soviet environmentalists who were bucking the system and trying to create something good in the dam of the Neva River. And so what happened was our people came over from the US and met with them and started working with them. And it was just a tiny project. And all of a sudden it began maturing into other types of projects. The latest project was that we got a 4-year, something like $3 million fund to go out and clean up Lake Baikal, the largest lake in the world. It was wonderful because we were able to buy the services of the people who knew how to start trying to clean up that lake and the basin. I found myself writing checks for reindeers and yak and trying to put the normal kind of animals back in the area. Today it's pretty well cleaned up, but it still needs work to be done. But nonetheless, we were able to do a great job. And we would have never thought about creating an environmental program if the Russians hadn't just come to us with that tiny little project that they had with the Leningrad Dam. So these are the things I don't understand about what I've been tied up with, or what I've been blessed with being a part of all of these years. Then we decided it's time for Soviets to come to the United States. Well, this was in 1998. And of course, it was still the Soviet Union. Gorbachev had been in for 2 years. I know now that he was the one that gave permission for us to be able to take people of our choice, Soviets of our choice. So we took street people, we took the people we had known, we'd been in their apartments, we took all sorts of people to the United States. And they traveled to 4 cities while they were here. They spoke, they did potlucks, they shared family news. They talked about their country, what they liked, what they didn't like. The Americans did the same thing. It was a love affair across the United States. And so I lost funding for this program after the first $50,000. And I got that from a funder. And I went to a meeting in about 50 miles from my home, because 4 of the Russians were here in Los Gatos. And I went in a little dejected because I thought, you know, this is the last money I've got. What am I going to be able to do? And a man I didn't know came up to me and he said, "Miss Tennyson, you know, Steve Wozniak is in this room." And I said, "Where?" And he said, "Look around." I said, "I don't see anybody that looks like a Steve Wozniak." Of course, I didn't know what Steve looked like. But at any rate, he said, "The one in tennis shoes and white tennis togs." I looked around and I saw this young man. And I thought, I got to get to him. So I walked straight up and said, "You know, how do you like this program? Why are you here? I understand you're Steve Wozniak. Is this true?" He said, "Yeah, it's true." Anyway, the next week I was in his office. He gave me a check for $200,000. I was able to run the rest of this program to get all of the 400 Russians traveling across the country for 2 years with Steve's money. So I can't explain these kinds of things. They just happen. So maybe some of you can explain them. If so, I'll find out after I get through with this. Then we realized that the country was falling apart. All of a sudden, the banks didn't have money. Rubles were worthless. I was told to get off the streets in Moscow because it was dangerous for anybody that looked like they had on Western clothes, because probably they would have dollars in their pockets. And so we were trying to figure out how in the world we could help these people. And I started doing emergency food lifts. We did in San Francisco. I think Kim was a part of this. We got a big garage and we just boxed up as many boxes as we could and started sending them on through the bay and out to shipping them out to Russia. So we were doing the little bits that we could. We were doing also cash lifts. We covered ourselves in $100 bills and packages of them and sewn into our garments and traveled to Russia and gave them out and then came back and did the same thing. We were doing anything we could to help them survive. And in the process, we were meeting some young entrepreneurs who were trying to start their first businesses. They didn't have a clue how to do it. They had never worked in a business. They had never had a father or a grandfather who had worked in a business. They didn't even know how to price their time. They didn't know how to price their product. And their products usually were pretty juvenile. No, not juvenile. They were pretty lowly done. And I remember some of the clothing that I saw, and it was just not up to par at all. But at any rate, we started figuring out which ones of those businesses might succeed, and then started bringing them to the United States to study under someone who was running a business that was successful, and they could be able to learn from them. So that program started in 1989, before the country really fell apart. And that was called the Economic Development Program. Then we started doing seed lifts. Yes, we sent over 300 tons of seeds from Ball Seed Company to Russia and began distributing it through the Leningrad or St. Petersburg offices. And then the next thing was that this little program to train the entrepreneurs was becoming pretty well known. It was being successful in ways, small ways. And I got invited to come to USAID office in Moscow. And I guess that they wanted to know how we did the program. What I didn't know was the question they were going to be asking. So after I told them everything about it and what I would hope that will happen in the future, they said, "How much money do you want?" I was stymied because I hadn't even expected this question. And I said, well, maybe I could do a lot with $100,000. And the room got quiet. The man looked at me like I was a foreigner. And he said, "Sharon, we don't do $100,000. What would you do if we gave you 10 million?" I almost fainted. I didn't have a clue. And I told him, I don't have a clue. I'll have to think about this. So I went home. They said, "Go home and write a proposal." So that's when I found out how government spends their monies. And I wasn't pleased at all with that, but I was sure pleased that I would be able to write a program that would be able to get some of that money. And so I did write a program to start 8 regional offices across Russia, and to fund those offices with a local person who could run them and who was qualified to. And I began sending out people in my staff here at home, young women that were working. I had about 5 or 6 young women with Russian languages, and they were going out to different places to work in areas where English wasn't spoken. So I sent them out to these various cities, which I felt like I had pretty well identified would be moving, pretty successful cities in the future. And so they did. They found the right people, and then we started those offices, and I began to run the program, and then they began to get more and more entrepreneurs to travel on the program, where we ended up with a huge program. Then that was USAID money. Then I decided to start doing industry sector entrepreneurs. For instance, instead of taking one entrepreneur and going to one type of business, I decided it would be better if we did by industry sector. So the first industry sector was cheese making. And with that one, we sent 11. We always sent 11 people because that's the size of a van that we could travel around with them in different places. And so the cheesemakers either went to, we had several delegations of them. They either went to Wisconsin or they came to California, both good cheesemaking places. And so this was the way this worked. We at one time we had 80 different industry subsectors that we were training Russians in. And the Russians were coming from 71 regions across Russia, none of them from Moscow. Moscow had become spoiled. They were getting 85% of the foreign aid coming in. And I said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to put ourselves in St. Petersburg and we're going to operate out of there. And then we're going to the regions where we can help as many people as possible. And so our entrepreneurs, over 6,000 of them came from across the country to work in one of these delegations, to learn in one of these delegations. And it was good because I didn't want to get the Russians from the same cities because I knew there would be competition. So we tried to make sure that they all were coming from different cities. And it was quite a bunch of, investigations that we had to make, and even to even find all of these people and find places that they could come in the United States. But at any rate, it worked out beautifully. And State Department then said, okay, we're ready to pay for more of this. But we have to know first, how are you going to find people that are going to take all these people in? And I said, very, very simply, we'll ask Rotary people to do this. He looked at me like I was crazy. He said, Rotary will take this kind of project? And I said, I'm sure they will. They have in the past. And he said, okay, well, I'll take your word for it. And he gave me $15 million to run this program. And it was just, this was Dick Morningstar. He was considered the czar to Russia. But he was wonderful. But how can these kinds of things happen? I don't know. I'm not a religious person. I don't understand how it all happens. I just know that it happens when we're doing the right thing and we take chances. And so that was our big PEP program. And out of the 6,000, approximately 5,000 were hosted by Rotary clubs around the country. And if you get to read my book, you will look in the back of it and see the different Rotary clubs, unbelievable number of clubs that hosted these people. Sometimes they hosted group after group. In the East Bay, we had, of San Francisco, we had 11 bakeries. No, we had bakeries, really shishi bakeries. They produce the best bread in the area. And they invited 11 different delegations of Russian bakers to come to their place. And today, I'm surprised some of them are on this call because they are so devoted to their Russian bakers, and many of them have gone over there several times. I had a call, I had an email from one of them a couple of days ago, and he said, I will take your next delegation of Americans to Russia in a jet plane and I'll pay for it all. I wrote him back and I said, how can you pay for a jet plane? And he said, God's been good to me. He said, and I want to give it away to the things that I think are important in life. So just let me know when you want to go. So, I'm not surprised by anything these days, except that I can't keep up with the emails and the back and forth traffic and the public and the horrible kinds of press that we're getting in this country about Russia. I can't believe that this is what I'm reading from the New York Times, but at any rate, I'll let it go at that. So this is what we've been doing all these years. Now, I did run out of money. I didn't run out of money. The US government decided they were going to close our grant because they told me they needed to send that money to Iraq or Afghanistan. It was Iraq. And so that was the end of government funding. I had to close my large building down in the Presidio of San Francisco and get rid of 30 staff members, and all of a sudden decide what I could do next. And of course, I decided I could still write this book And that took about 6 or 8 months. And then after that, I decided I needed to be at least challenging the media that I know is giving wrong stories, and figure out why they're doing this. And so I've been writing and speaking and reading and trying to understand what's going on between these two nations. I think I do pretty well understand it now. And meanwhile, here I find myself talking to you. I speak to different clubs. I speak to different people who've got aspects that I don't have. I read, and I'm still kept busy by this email that goes on all the time with people all between, from Vladivostok on over to Moscow and St. Petersburg and all around the United States. I call these the big ideas. My most recent big idea is that we Americans and Russians need to be in Zoom contact with each other, because this is the only way we can contact each other now. We don't have choice. But it also offers up a really wonderful opportunity for people who understand technology. I don't. I always have to have somebody else to help with it. And at my age, I'm not interested in learning all of it. And so, but what I can do is put people together. And so what I'm suggesting now is that one Rotary Club in Russia and one Rotary Club in the United States become paired with each other. And they meet monthly. And they get to know each other, and they get to trust each other, and they get to build relationships and know about each other's families and their work and what's important to them. And in that process, then we're building little nodes of goodwill between the two peoples. And who knows what can come out of it. You know, this could actually blossom into something great sometime. If we do enough of these couplings, then we will be able to do something really terrific. My next step for this would be the possibility of what has been suggested to me for years by Vladimir Posner, and I'm assuming many of you know Posner or know of him. Posner was born in France. His mother moved to New York and brought him when he was a baby or small child. He lived here until he was in his late teens. And then his father was a Russian, and he was a filmmaker, and he was told by Hollywood that he couldn't stay in this country unless he rejected his own country, and he refused to do that. And so this man took his 2 sons, teenage sons, and his wife, and moved back to the Soviet Union. You can imagine what a shock this was for Posner as a teenager. He loved baseball here. He loved everything that was American. He, you know, and all of a sudden he was caught in a system that absolutely was totally alien to him. But he had to survive there. He had no choice. So, bringing it up to today, Posner was a journalist, and he became the most powerful journalist in the country. He had to do some propaganda. He wrote a book about that later, and admitted what he had to do to the whole country, and said, "I'm so sorry if I did say things that I wish I hadn't, but I had no choice." And meanwhile, it's time for all of us to clean up our acts and make sure that we tell the truth from now on. And he became, of course, doubly loved, because he was able to do this mass confession with all of the people that loved him. And since then, he has become Russia's most loved male, period, most loved person. He was #1 in the country. When he had his 70th birthday, I saw the headlines that said, "Posner turned 70 today," in the biggest paper in Russia. So at any rate, he has been after me for the last several years, saying you need to do an exchange, a large exchange of youth, young people in each other's countries. They need to come, Russians need to come to American companies and spend at least a month and hopefully a semester, getting to know Americans, understanding family life, everything that we are here in America. And the American kids need to go to Russia and do the same thing and spend enough time there to really integrate themselves into the family life, to the city life, to teenage life, whatever. He said, if we do this and let them stay there long enough, they will begin to understand these two countries where we people who are much older don't have a chance of understanding. And so I just listened to him the first 2 or 3 times he passed this by me. I said, you know, I don't do youth exchanges. And I do people or adults that can make a difference. He says, children, young people can make a difference. He says, we've fought over this for 2 or 3 years and or more. And so at any rate, I realized as a second step for these Rotary Zoom pairings that hopefully will go on all over the country, both countries, that this would be an ideal way for me to be able to work with young people and be sure that they would be going into homes that I would approve of here in the United States and in Russia. You know, if you're dealing with adults, they can deal with a lot of stuff, but kids, there are a lot of homes in this country that I wouldn't dare put children into, young people, not children. But at any rate, I thought Rotary, Zooms, I wonder if we could create what Posner's been hoping for all of this time. And so I submit to you that this is another big idea. I'm not pushing it on anybody. I'm not planning to do it unless Rotary is interested in it, because there's not another organization that could do it. But at any rate, I just leave that with you. And if any of you are interested in this type of thing, let me know. If any of you are willing to have a Rotary contact in Russia and build relationships with them, I would love to know about that. I will put it together sooner or later. Probably it would take me within 3 or 4 months, but I can do it. And also, I'd like to tell you about the 2 trips that I'm going to be taking in 2021. I had to cancel the 2020 trip because of the COVID virus, but I think it's going to be safe to go in 2021. And I want to take 2 delegations, one in June, the other in September. These are the best months to travel there. And these delegations, I hope, will be 100 people each. And in Moscow, we will do, and this is totally an investigative trip. This is not a tour trip or anything else. You can do tours, you can go to museums or whatever, but it's not in the program. I'm interested in taking Americans who will go and take a real strong look at what is Russia today, not only in Moscow, but also in the second city. We would send them out across Russia. We've done this 3 or 4 times already, so I know it works beautifully. And they would go out there where few Americans go. They would learn about what's going on in those regions, how their children's education is coming along, what they're interested in, what their values are, whether their roads are paved or not, what the housing looks like. Some of them have even been able to get into Russian housing, which is wonderful. And at any rate, then after they get all of this experience and they fill out all of these papers that I could send them with to check this and check that, or this 1, 2, 3, or 4 on this, how much of this is so. And so they bring all of this stuff back to me, which I then work with after they're gone. But then we all meet in St. Petersburg. And there, in the second capital of Russia, the cultural capital, we sit the first day in a large conference room in a huge circle. And we go around the circle telling the people that are go to the same city, is usually 2 or 3 people, sit together, and each area sits together. And then we hear what each one of them experienced when they went out to these regions. It is an amazing experience. I could never get that much information any other way on modern day Russia. And then what I will do with that is then we'll start with, we'll have videographers with us. And so we will get this by video. We also will have a PR person traveling with at least the June delegation. And so I intend to do just mass public education with it. um, somebody has to be able to tell the truth about both of these countries. And that's the task that I've kind of put before myself. I probably will not be leading more of these trips after 2021 because it's a little more difficult now, and I think it's not right for me to keep on doing it. But I'm going to be training 5 other people to lead the trips in 2021. So at any rate, if anybody's interested and think they want to go on this kind of trip to Russia, let me know. I'll send you an application. And other than that, I think that's about all I have to say, Rudy. I'll take questions if anybody's interested in asking questions.
Great, Sharon. And I guess we need to see who's going to star in the movie about your life.
Crazy.
That'll be happening. We've got Marcia Hunt's interested in going 2021, so we'll connect you with Marcia. We do have a question here. What do you think we need to do to improve reporting, major media reporting on, and also in a variety of media sources on accuracy and reporting between what's going on in Russia and what's going on in the United States?
I wish that I knew, Rudy, and we personally have taken on the New York Times, and every time they run one of these articles that we know is filled with nothing but rumors, we send out to a number of our people saying, tell them what you think about this article and why, and tell them what the truth is. And so I think one of the people on our line today is Zoom today is Paula Day, and Paula is the one that heads this project. She would love to have more people writing the New York Times. The problem in our country is that we have listened to rumors for so long that we don't know what truth is. And people don't know how to distinguish what would be true or not, even if you didn't go to Russia and find out for yourself, or other countries. It's not just Russia. We get a constant blur of information depending upon what the politics are behind the scenes. And this is not good for us or for the world. So I'll be glad to put any of you on my email list to receive the reports that I send out usually once a week. And I work on this whole business of rumors, because we're now living with rumors, and that, you know, with nuclear weapons, this could easily start a war. We don't know it's so complicated, and while I get so excited about the other things that are going on, I have deep concerns for where we are right now. Both parties. It has
Great.
not.
We have we had a couple of comments in there. One was that Rotary does youth exchanges to Russia and over to the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll have to look at where that program is. Our club, your club, would be interested in having a sister city club with a club in Russia.
Great.
And so if you want to help develop that for us for our e-club, that'd be great.
We'll do it.
That would be perfect. Somebody put in there, are you aware of the Ted Turner's work with Citizens Summit, where he had 100 Russians and 100 Americans?
I was aware of Ted's work earlier, much earlier. I'm not aware of anything present. Does anybody know anything about present work? I haven't seen his name in years. So if the person can, are you hearing me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so no, I don't know. He was very active for a while, and that was back in the 80s, and he hasn't been too active since. By the way, my next trip will be co-led by Ambassador Jack Matlock, who is our quintessential American ambassador. He was one that brokered the relationship between Reagan and Gorbachev. He's a wealth of information. He will be lecturing every morning, the 5 mornings that we will be in Moscow. He will lecture first, and then we will meet with experts the rest of the days when we're in Moscow. And for people who want to go down to Red Square, we can do that at night. There are some of the museums that stay open at night. Or if you want to skip out on one of the experts, you can. But the role, what we take for is to get information, true, realistic information. And so.
I will, a couple of people have asked for your email, but they're
Right.
members of our club, so they, believe they have your email, but I'll get that to them.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Any other questions?
We had let's see, we got one here from Brian Berman. Did you work with Vladya Shestakov in St. Petersburg?
Blodia and I have worked together for 35 years. Yeah. Yeah. I paid his salary all this time. This is a wonderful, wonderful man that's now probably about 65 or 70, but he was a young kid almost when I met him. Yeah, he's been involved with our environmental programs. He's been involved with every program. And so whoever asked that question, yes, matter of fact, got an email from him this morning. Yeah. And I'm more like a grandmother to his children, because they were coming up just when I was in their household a lot. And his wife used to say, you know, I get along with Blodia better when he's traveling with Sharon than I do when he's home. So would you please take another trip?
We have a couple of our Russian friends on here that would like to, they can unmute themselves. Kappa,
Oh, wonderful. Kappa's here. I didn't see her.
you can unmute yourself and make a few comments, please,
Wonderful.
if you can. And
Can you unmute
Evgenia?
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 Eugenia? Eugenia?
Let me see if,
Fedorkova, is she still on?
let me check in here.
Yeah,
She usually has something to say about everything, so let's She is an amazing woman.
See where we are here.
Gallery.
I'm trying to get down through the,
Oh, I don't want that. I'm so inept at this business of,
Ruth, could you unmute me?
I gotta see where we are here.
okay, here is Eugenia. Genia? Oh, she, unmute yourself.
No, it says that we can't unmute.
Let me,
ourselves.
hold on a second. Let me see if I can, who I can unmute here. Because I probably put a setting in there so we wouldn't get,
Okay, hers is, it looks like EVGE in Terikova,
It's in the
TER.
blue blouse, Ruth.
that doesn't help me. I've got to,
Okay, Kappa will probably know. Kappa, can you hear me? Can you unmute yourself? Can you unmute everybody?
let me see.
Okay, they have to
unmute themselves now. It was
Oh,
a message.
oh,
So Kappa, if you could unmute yourself, it's in the bottom
left-hand corner
of the screen. Or yours
Yours
might
might be in a top corner.
Let me see if I can find them here.
my screen, Genia's here. They're right together.
I can't. I try to unmute
Let's
here.
see if somebody else can.
Can
Can somebody
somebody else unmute themselves?
Okay, I think now you could hear me.
I
You
can.
Wonderful.
Did you manage? Good.
Yes.
Again, hello everyone. I'll try to be brief and serious if possible. First of all, thank you, Sharon, very much for whatever you said. And part of this way, since 1995, I have been walking behind or trying to be along sometimes together with you. Second, I wanted to speak what you know history very well. You wrote this book. I've got it in Russian. If Kappa hasn't it, I'll send you Kappa one in Russian. And I was interested, of course, in what could be done now and in the future to come. That's why I indicated, would you allow me to make a couple of comments and a suggestion or two? First, you know that many Rotary clubs in the western part of Russia sprang up thanks to Sharon, because after coming back from the United States, Russians formed up those Rotary clubs. So Rotary emerged there and became an independent district thanks to Sharon's efforts. Just she forgot to mention that fact. This is number one. Number two, today we have in Rotary, within the framework of Rotary, so-called inter-country committees. Every one country may have a committee with any other. We, the Russians, have them with the United States, with Great Britain, with Bulgaria, with Ukraine, with everyone. I'm speaking now about the Russia based on the alphabetical order, nothing personal. Russia, the US, inter-country committee. We could do a lot within the framework of this committee, especially if Sharon, where are you?
I'm
Because
here.
I'm looking for you here in the portraits.
I hear you.
Just
She's
like,
outlined in yellow.
yes,
And
like a
she's
milestone, looking for Sharon. Here, I can see you. We could do a lot, including youth exchanging, including anything you can think of. We can make within Rotary, based on Rotary rules, within Rotary International, in our inter-country committee, Russia, the US. I am the member of the one. Now, after I stopped being, I am PDG, past district governor, 2013, 2014. This is one thing. Anything you can think of, Sharon, if you would like to become a kind of a permanent member, I can suggest that they could involve you if you want, but we can talk it a little bit later, what you think about that.
Great.
Point maybe number three, all those programs, as you call delegations, and you also know that since 1995 till the very end, that is 2008 or 9, when they drew the funding, I've been in charge of the Far Eastern office, and still those entrepreneurs keep asking me, how many years passed, could we possibly have something of this type? So I am suggesting, if we could now, on the basis of Rotary, involve or somehow continue doing like that, nothing changed. It will be a very good idea to go on with those incubators or whatever the name and continue teaching and learning the small and mid-sized businesses. And perhaps another thing, the last, because I know that we don't have time, and I am sorry there were calls, I turned off my phone. There is, perhaps you have learned or know the name of a Rotarian, Mats Ingemanson. He lives in New York, and he's in charge. We are classmates in terms of PDGs, past district governors of the same year. And now he has something similar to, perhaps Rudy, you know that.
I know Matt's, yeah.
Good Peace Committee. And he and his wife, Sandra Lee Ingemanson, we are good friends. And they want to come to Vladivostok, and they were in Korea, but COVID interfered, whatever but they promised to come. Could do something together, involve them somehow. That would be nice. That's all.
That's
Good.
great. Yeah, thank you.
Continue.
Kappa?
Oh, Sharon,
Hi.
I'm so glad to see you. I want to tell you that I know about you starting from 1986 when
Wow.
when I first participated in your program, Citizen to Citizen, or Soviets Meet Middle America.
You did. I wasn't aware
Yes,
of that.
yes.
Oh, wonderful.
It was the trip which changed my life totally.
Yeah. Oh, thank
And
you.
taking part in this trip, I understood that we always were supposed to think that the world is so big, but I understood that the world is not that big, that the world consists of people, and people are very close to each other, and people are very similar to each other. And
Yeah.
so the world is small, and the world is we people. And after when I returned from that trip, I decided that I must do something to change our people mind, because that years we lived in the communist society, and of course, and to visit America, it was a kind of miracle, a kind of some extraordinary step. And I wanted to be involved in all these activities. And fortunately, Evgenia from Vladivostok involved me into Rotary and in all these exchanges. And from Yakutsk, it is people think that Yakutsk is a whole of the world, that it is a very dark spot of the world, that it is very cold and it is very backward country, but part of the world. But from Yakutsk, Sharon, in your program participated about maybe 50 entrepreneurs.
Wow.
And
I didn't know that.
they are very thankful. And they always remember their trip to America. And they always to return to America just to get more knowledge. And most of them started to work better after visiting. And most of them changed their attitude to business. And it was for them, it was very educationable. So it was very knowledgeable trip, very knowledgeable trip.
Thank you.
And the recent participant from your program was last year, Anne Wright.
Yeah.
Yes,
Former diplomat, a former diplomat.
we hosted her, and she was so lucky, and she was so happy that she chose Yakutsk, not Moscow, not Novosibirsk, not the very big and civilized cities, but she came, the only person, she came to Yakutsk, and she was hosted with all our heart. She was very happy, and we were very happy too. She's a very interesting person, and she's made a lot of publications. She made a lot of good things, and she visited many businesses and many societies and many people, and in villages, in the city, and so we were very happy to have her.
Wonderful.
And yes, and if to return to youth exchange exists within Rotary. And if you want to involve youth, very young people to participate in these exchanges, being very friendly, Russian young people, of course, will be very happy to participate in such exchanges, but with the aim to stay in America forever. Yes. And my understanding is when it is very useful and it is very good when entrepreneurs participate, business people, and with the age maybe 30, 35, about 40, because they know what they want, they know what can expect, what can they expect from this trip, and they want to bring their knowledge and to use it in their businesses. It is a very serious category of business people, and it is very serious young people. And also, in Russia, we speak now about civil society. Of course, civil society is civil society, and for instance, we started the project anti-cancer support of survivors after I suffered this disease. And last year, 2 years ago, we managed to send our survivors and the organizers of survivors to visit Alaska. And they were also very happy to see how civil society and non-commercial organization function in America. It is very desirable, and it is very useful for Russians to know better how all these institutions of civil society function in America. And so maybe you will pay your attention to these entrepreneurs and civil society, non-commercial.
So much, Carol. I'm going to come out and see you next year so we can talk about it then, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
This is great. We've got relationships. As many of you came to our peace conference in 2016, and we had the violinist virtuosos from Yakutsk performed at our peace conference, and were just so well received, and what a wonderful group of performers, and we really enjoyed that. We talked to a friend, Sharon and Kappa, of yours, I think, past District Governor Steve Yoshida and I were on the phone yesterday. So he sends well wishes to everybody.
Thank you so much.
Steve Yoshida is my brother. Oh, thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Sharon. You are the extraordinary person who changed the lives of so many people in Russia, and of course in your country too. But for me personally, you are like a symbol of how to serve the society and how to be useful and to be good to people. So thank you very much. And Rudy, thank you for your help.
Thank you. Thank everybody. Great seeing everybody. This has been an extraordinary discussion tonight. And like I said, we want this to continue, and we would love to have a sister city club in Russia be a sister club with our club with our E-Club of World Peace. And anything we can do to help that relationship and including connecting with the Intercountry Committee would be great. And we'll continue together creating peace. That's what our Rotary Club's about here, our E-Club. And so we would love to be a good connector and be part of any of these processes that we can do to create peace between Russia. And we know our Rotarians are all friends and family. So we just need to extend that and grow that group.
Great. Let's do it. And let's meet and talk about which city would be best for you.
That would be super. This has been totally great. I know I apologize that we got bombed early on here with the hackers, and we'll work on making sure that doesn't happen in the future. But I'm glad most of you were able to come back on here, and we got through the program here. And we will be getting with Sharon, and we'll have another session sometime here in the next few months, and take this to the next step. We'll see if that's before or after the election, or what happens there, whichever we think might fit best. But appreciate everybody being on here. Barbara, you still on?
And wait, Rude.
Okay, go ahead.
And also, anybody who is on is welcome back anytime.
Great.
We
Thank you.
have other speakers, and we have a website that lists the speakers. It's Peace Conference 20. No, I'm sorry.
She sits next to me, so she's absorbed about peace conferences. So
It's E-Club of World. Rotary E-Club.
yeah, Rotary E-Club of World Peace.org, all one word. Rotary E-Club of World Peace.org. And appreciate everybody being on here, and we'll continue to make these connections. Barbara, are you still here? And we would love for any of you that that are not Rotarians to jump on here and decide that you'd love to join our club. We invite you to be a member in our club. And if you need additional information, just email me. You see my name up there below there, Rudy Westervelt. Just my whole name, rudywestervelt@gmail.com. I try to get every letter in the alphabet in my name, but I missed a couple. rudywestervelt@gmail.com would be great. Sharon, any final words for us?
Well, I'm just so happy to have seen all of you here. This is just wonderful to get Russians and Americans together in this huge happening that we were able to create today. Thanks to you, Rudy. I'm just so appreciative to be able to have been a part of it all. And hopefully we will have other opportunities to talk in the future. And meanwhile, I'll be coming to Russia pretty soon. And so I'll be able to visit with some of you that whose cities I haven't been to in the past, like Yakutia. And so at any rate, thanks to everyone for being interested, for caring what goes on between our two countries, the planet. Let's all see what we can do to work for goodwill and concern for all lives wherever they are. Thank you so much.
This is great. Thank you. Be at peace. And we will have the recording up on our website here by tomorrow, and everybody can get to the link on there. And we look forward to seeing everybody next week and the weeks forward. Thanks so much. Stay in peace, stay well, and we'll be in touch. Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody.